But you got that one up yet? Yeah. So guess what? Guess this same thing. It's allegedly created in the 4th century. But guess when it was discovered? 1938. Why isn't anybody discovering this stuff earlier? And this is guys. This is the foundation of Elder Futhark. It's not based on anything that was discovered a long time ago. This is what it's based on.
Also, in the text, it refers to supposedly. Read it right here. It may be the earliest inscription to mention the word runo for rune.
Yeah.
That to me, that's like, oh yeah, Holy Grail. This is the
Look, it even says rune. It's legit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I would. If I was a forger, that's what I would do. Just saying.
And
you know, it's almost like childlike.
Yeah.
What were you saying, George?
Oh, I was saying that runo, it's disyllabic now. Like, why is it 2 syllables all of a sudden? It's just far off.
Just today, this is really obscure, but help me out. Is theos, doesn't that in Greek have a also relate to a runner? That
I don't know.
I believe that, like, I'm listening to Socrates, and he's talking about the nature of words and names, and are they divine? Is the nature of the name within the sound of the word? Cratylus. It's Socrates' dialogue on the Cratylus. And I'm pretty sure he says that in Greek, the gods are called the theos. And he says, doesn't that make sense? Because they, much like, they call planets, it meant wanderers. So
running on the tracks of the sky. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
That's the 7-fold city of Troy and of Rome.
Right.
That's exactly
so
it.
I'm thinking about runners and runes, and also the idea of symbols being divine and having being imbued with magical value.
And they're both based off of like motion.
Right. And
because I think runo means like secret and like whispers. There is like a wind to it, like run like the wind type of deal. There is like a
that's the same meaning as agam, secret.
Yeah, secret. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Of course.
And the word drexe with the T is to rush or to hurry, so that has another T at the beginning. So maybe that's another similar.
This is what got me is like the other thing. Look, it's called Futhark. It's named after the first 6 letters or whatever, right? Well, what are all these alphabets named after? They were named after the first letters. Beth Louise Neon, Boboleth. This is where, going back to this, is what like people like Higgins and stuff helped me discover is this is a system. And if you look at the root letters, they all come from this 16-letter system. Right. And then they're either added on, subtract, whatever, but not always used. They're there, but they're not always used. Like even like I think the early Phoenician and the early Etruscan only had 13 letters that they used. So one or two, is this legit? Is that inscription
legit?
We gotta
say what the inscription translates to.
Oh yeah, do it.
Is Gold Guest painted this runic inscription, or I Gold Guest inscribed the runes. So basically, it's like like why would you even do that? I don't understand what Dylan's saying about this not enlightening anyone or containing any useful information. Is it the only thing useful about that inscription would be if you were the guy who discovered it, like, oh, this is the perfect inscription to have a great discovery. I don't know. That's all I could say about it.
It's like the old Johnny was here,
a tree.
Exactly. I was here.
It. Johnny was here.
Yes, 1988.
Dude, I don't know.
So I've got another random thought about the idea, because runes are in the shape that they are, such that they can be carved into trees, and that's why they're minimal rounded shapes. They're all straight. That's what they tell us is the reason for them to be so straight. Now, what comes to mind, and this is just free ball association, all caps letters. All caps letters are the public facing name that draws you into the public. We know about the legal system and all what the name de gloire. But it's also, it's yelling, it's screaming. And like, the guy who walks through town and he's like, 12 o'clock and all is well.
The
Well,
crier.
that's a public notice. Yeah, you got it. It's public notice, and he's yelling out loud. So there's some aspect of all of this putting us into the public. And in law, the public is the common, and the private is the ascended masters, those who work in equity, the unnameable, the clean ones, the higher class. And I always see this divide, the two pillars, the Jachin and the Boaz, and there's the sullied masses are always in the public. And they're it's like when Reagan let all the crazy people out of the insane asylum. Well, guess what happened when he did that? We are all now considered insane. Our essences have been blended, and we are now the one and the same with the people that he let loose into the sullied masses, and they are hiding on the private side. And so I just wanted to make that strange association with the all caps straight nature of these letters, the screaming of all caps in law, and the fact that it puts us all out in the public, where public notice is still a huge part of what revelation of the method that we decode when we do film. They're putting us on notice.
Did you say a word called negoire? You said something I think might be important, but I didn't understand.
Your nom de gloire. Your all caps name is considered your war name.
Oh no!
It's your
yeah. That's the name of war. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's your battle
just
name.
Reminded me. Yeah, and so for people who are more like Latin, that like guerre in Spanish, it's the same war, that G, and the G is like Bill, Will, Guillerme, right? It's that GBW interchange. But that helmet was called Naga. And so I wonder if there's a connection to that. And then in Mexico, they have the naguals. They're like their natal animals based on the signs. And I'm
interesting.
Like, is this all this name of war? This I don't know.
It's part
it
of
just
the
made
system,
me think of
dude.
that. That's why I asked.
It's part of the system. I was just thinking about this idea of the second name last night. All in the context of ancient history being mythology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Higgins has a quote here where he says, "There is scarcely one history, perhaps not one, which does not contain more religious fable than truth." And then he goes on to talk about the 12 Caesars and the 12 signs of the zodiac. And anyway, like Julius Caesar is like a title given to him. Jesus Christ is a title given to him. The Buddha, the Buddha is a title given to him. So basically, again, a Higgins quote, "There is scarcely a name in very ancient history, either sacred or profane, which was not an adopted or second name." So basically the Christian name, or the name given with a reference to the supposed quality of or office of its owner, like the fact that a lot of people's last name was like Smith or Baker or whatever. So the point is, this legal naming of things, every time you get a new name bestowed on somebody in a so-called historical story, where they're like taking on a name for their office or title, which we see a lot in the Roman history, a lot in Greek supposed history, that is probably the mythos. We're probably looking at the same mythos over and over again, like Jesus the Christ. This the whole straw man story going on over and over again. And also it applies to where you can take a name and see that it's actually referring to their office or referring to their title, like John the Baptist, John being kind of an occulted Yoni, name of Yoni, right? The dove and all the dove symbolism that goes along with that character. So sometimes it's a little more below the surface, but that their name is actually more one of these titles of office and given to you as like it's their name. But so just watch out for this whole phenomenon of the second name or the special name.
Yeah.
whether it's being given to you in history or not, as a history or as a mythology. It's mythology when you see that. In my opinion, it's part of the system, right? And so
That's
they've
what-
kind of like pulled us all into that system with what you're talking about, the nom de guerre, the straw man, the all
Right.
caps, the last name, all of that, etc.
Yeah,
So what's the nom de plume then? What's nom de plume? I've heard that too.
Yeah, that's your writer's name. It's like if you're
Oh, okay,
if you're a
okay, like-
ghostwriter, it's like it kind of goes back to what Chance was saying about if you want to change the world, give somebody else the credit, that kind of thing.
nom de plume.
But you know that an esquire, lawyers take on this title of
Mhm.
I'm the special boy. Esquire is it's the same thing. It's like this a persona or a mask, so to say, that makes them, the priests basically. And it's
A lot of
fascinating.
Italians. Let's
what's
just say a lot of
that?
Italians when they come over here, because people who come from like the Italian system, they understand the system. So when they come to
Right.
America, they'll change their last name by like one letter or something, because that will be the
Right.
legal thing that won't affect their family name. They know about all this shit. You see this all the time,
Yes,
You're right.
like in the mobs and stuff.
uh-huh. That comes up in a lot of interesting places. Like even one of Spinoza's defining conversations as a student, he was listening to two of his gurus, and they were discussing spiritually about what happens when a person changes their name. Can they become, will it change the fate? Like, a lot of people believe that the angels have your name in the book of life is already written when you're born. Now, if you go and change your name, are you messing with the magic of that system? So yeah, that's fascinating that when people come over, they go through a one-letter name change, and maybe their destiny can be, maybe their destiny can be altered some way. That's funny.